Predicting box office bombs isn't as hard as predicting a winning lottery number, but it's close. I'm pretty sure some of the most anticipated movies of 2026 are going to flop. Movies like Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow faces an uphill battle if it's going to be a box office hit. It has a decent lineup on screen. It stars young Rhaenyra Targaryen as Supergirl and Aquaman as Lobo. But behind the scenes, it's a huge gamble for DC. With talk that the budget for Woman of Tomorrow could be as high as $225 million, the studio is banking on tons of people showing up to see it if they even want to break even, let alone make a profit. But will people show up? When most people think of Supergirl, they probably picture the CW series, which got its fans by being, well, a CW show. So basically a soap opera with special effects.
I guess that's your cue, Supergirl.
It's a different audience than the one for a serious big screen adventure, and even in those parameters, the character hasn't done much. Putting Supergirl in The Flash didn't exactly get people forking over their paychecks to watch that movie, and jumping straight into a headlining feature for her is, well, kind of a confusing move for DC. It also might depend on whether James Gunn's Superman is a box office hit. I mean, it will be, but are we talking 600 million or over $1 billion? If the new and improved Gunverse doesn't blow everyone away with its first tentpole feature, audiences could easily decide to skip the next one.
You're seeing another villain already? I thought we had something special. Shut up, freak!
I hate to say it, but Clayface isn't looking good. It was set up to be a $40 million horror-centered movie from a script by Mike Flanagan, the dude behind Netflix's Haunting shows and Midnight Mass. That immediately gave it creative talent and a budget that would be easy to recoup. But in May 2025, reports came out that the entire project was getting a full page one rewrite without Flanagan's involvement. It's an especially baffling about face because Gunn previously said that the entire reason he greenlit a Clayface movie out of all the possible DC projects was because it had a script. So we're basically looking at a movie based on a lesser known Batman villain that doesn't have a script and may not even feature Batman. Then, assuming it even hits its planned release date, it opens just a couple of weeks after the next Insidious film, which will take some of its audience, and Disney has an unspecified release schedule for the week after. If that turns out to be a major film, Clayface could be looking at a theater emptier than the one in Batman Arkham City.
Too late. Curtains going down.
Disney's live-action remakes have been some of the hardest to predict in recent years. Some of them make $1 billion, and some of them barely crack $200K worldwide. The problem with a live-action Moana is that it doesn't seem like we really need it. While most of Disney's live-action remakes have been decades-old favorites, the original Moana isn't even 10 years old, and Moana 2 just dropped recently. The good news for Disney is that Moana 2 blew everyone's face off to the tune of over $1 billion. But then wouldn't it be better to make a third animated movie rather than make audiences watch a bunch of this and this and this?
Well, now I kind of miss the lava monster.
The Rock himself hasn't had a live-action hit in theaters for a while either. Black Adam and Red One both flopped, and really his last bona fide hit was Jumanji: The Next Level in 2019. If he isn't a draw for audiences, there may not be a way to make this remake a hit. The official description for Shiver sounds like the result of someone watching Sharknado and saying, "Let's do that, but serious." The tagline is, amidst a catastrophic hurricane, a coastal town battles nature's wrath and an onslaught of sharks. What a f***ing weird sentence. Okay. It's written and directed by Tommy Wirkola, who previously gave us 2 Dead Snow movies, those ones about the Nazi zombies, Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, and more recently a CG animated adult comedy called Spermageddon. Original ideas? Sure. Why not? Box office gold? Maybe a little less so. There's also the fact that Shiver has already been pushed back from a 2025 release date and got a name change at the same time. You always have to root for indie horror movies, and sharks are fun in general. But even if Shiver is good, that still won't mean box office bucks unless it has a good marketing strategy and a nice low budget to start with. Crawl is a good comparison. It was basically the same premise but with alligators, and it managed to coast to a little under $100 million on a roughly $15 million budget thanks to a strong ad campaign. Shiver could definitely do the same, but it's going to be swimming against the current. Director Timur Bekmambetov stormed the US box office briefly in 2008 with Wanted, but that was also so long ago that Trent Reznor songs weren't composed specifically for movies, and Chris Pratt was still a goofy side character.
It was great, bro. Who's the man?
Now Pratt is headlining a new movie directed by Bekmambetov called Mercy, which is being billed as a cyberpunk detective story. Now we want to be hopeful about this one, but it's hard. Pratt obviously has his Guardians of the Galaxy role behind him as a good box office record, but he hasn't always lived up to that in other sci-fi movies. The Tomorrow War sort of came and went without much of a splash, and everybody hated Electric State.
Keith,
What?
this is lame, man, even for you.
And cyberpunk is a particularly tough sell for general audiences. Even the holy grail of the genre, Blade Runner, more or less tanked, and 2049 didn't do much better. Maybe Mercy will beat the odds, but I doubt it. Are we really surprised to see Resident Evil here? It may technically be a new franchise, but it will be hard for audiences to separate it from the Milla Jovovich movies. Even worse, it was already rebooted just a few years ago with Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City. That director said Welcome to Raccoon City would be, quote, more faithful to the games, which is the same thing this director, Zach Krager, is saying. So what does that mean in this context? Will there be a dangerous house with demons?
This house is dangerous. There are terrible demons. Ouch!
Krager just says it'll follow a single protagonist with a streamlined A to B plotline. We don't know much else about it, but producers are reportedly seeking Austin Abrams for a major role. He's a good actor, but isn't the kind of household name a project like this might need. Short of a viral trailer and solid follow-through marketing, it's not going to be easy to get Resident Evil into the black. Blasphemy! How could we possibly think the feature film spinoff of one of the most beloved sci-fi shows of the last decade is going to bomb?
Put down the rocks, kid.
It's a good question, but like Radio Shack, we've got answers. First of all, the most recent season of The Mandalorian, released in 2023, didn't get great reviews. Then all the follow-up spin-offs like Ahsoka and the Book of Boba Fett were hit and miss with fans, and The Acolyte force-pulled most of the fandom straight to the dark side, for reasons that I'm not getting into here. My point is, Star Wars isn't a sure thing anymore. Yeah, I hope Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni can get Mando back to his Season 1 roots, but as it stands now, there are plenty of reasons to be skeptical. Unless everything lands right, we could be looking at yet another Star Wars movie struggling to win over audiences.
This is the way.
This is the way.
May 2026 will be a big month at the box office. Disney is dropping Avengers Doomsday the first week, and then Mandalorian and Grogu on the 22nd. And the week of the 15th has a major Universal tentpole schedule. In the middle of all that is Verity, a psychological thriller / romance starring Anne Hathaway, Josh Hartnett, and Dakota Johnson. And it's not gonna do well. Even if I were wrong about Mandalorian flopping, it's pretty much a guarantee that Doomsday is going to be filling seats all month. Their marketing so far is literally chairs, and millions of people are already eating it up. So where does that leave a quieter, character-driven drama? The only thing that makes sense is that the studio is thinking Verity will be the go-to option for people who aren't exactly in the target demographic for Avengers and Star Wars stuff. But it's not very likely that strategy will pay off.
Here's some money. Go see a Star Wars.
Anne Hathaway has a total of 3 movies coming out in 2026, but only one is a sure thing: Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Her third movie of the year is Flowervale Street, which sounds intriguing, but will probably flop. The movie centers on a suburban family who become the focal point of unexplained sci-fi events, so that's pretty vague. It's produced by Bad Robot and written and directed by David Robert Mitchell. There are even rumors that there might be dinosaurs involved. So why is it going to flop? Well, Mitchell is best known for It Follows and Under the Silver Lake, 2 great movies that didn't get much mainstream attention. Most importantly, the budget is currently listed at $85 million. That's probably because dinosaurs are expensive, but it also means Flowervale Street is going to have to sell plenty of tickets to break even. And for all you conspiracy theorists hoping it's going to be another stealth Cloverfield sequel, you know, Cloverfield Flowervale, it doesn't even have that going for it, even with bad robots involvement. The Cloverfield movies are Paramount properties, while Flowervale Street is a Warner Brothers production. By the power of Grayskull! This might be the easiest call on this list. Masters of the Universe is a property that mostly appeals to aging 80s kids. And that's the kind of film that has rarely been handled well on screen. I mean, the original cartoon was little more than a children's toy commercial to begin with. And when toys and cartoons become big budget movies, it's sink or swim.
I am directly below. The enemy scrotum.
On one hand, you have the Transformers franchise, which made like $90 billion, and Barbie, I guess. On the other hand, you have, let's see, G.I. Joe, Battleship, Inspector Gadget, Monster Trucks, Speed Racer, Woody freaking Woodpecker. It's an endless list. All that's to say, Masters of the Universe isn't going to pull in Transformers numbers even with a $200 million budget.